In today's Blender tutorial for beginners, we are going to create this. As always, the timestamps have been marked, so you can skip to any point in the video. Plus, the free ebook with all the shortcuts is linked in the description, so you can grab it from Gumroad. So let's get started. Here I have a default Blender scene with the default cube, light and camera. I'm just going to create a new collection here by right click and click new collection, and let's work in this collection. So let's start by hiding the camera and the light. I'll select both of them by clicking and dragging and press H to hide it. You can see all the key presses from here as well. So click on the default cube, tab to go into edit mode, S to scale, Z to lock it in the Z direction and scale it down. We'll use this as a table or the base for creating our objects. Let's press 1 to go into the front view and zoom in, and let's move this downwards. One thing I like to do is click on this arrow next to the gizmo option and click on this move modifier or this move gizmo, and now you can move objects without pressing the G key. Now click 1 to go into the front view and let's move it down so the top of it aligns with the axis. You can always press 5 to go into the isometric view or the orthographic view projection, which makes things look a little better, which makes things a little easier to see. Now what I like to do is go into the modeling space and click and drag from the top left corner to create a new window, and in this window I'll just press the 0 key to go into the camera view mode. You'll notice that my camera is different from yours probably because I have changed the scene settings to 1080 by 1920. It's by default 1080 by 1080, but this is the Instagram reel or YouTube short size which I keep. Now press T to hide this panel and let's adjust it like this. If at any point you feel this tutorial is too fast or complex for you, you can always go and check my beginner intro course. There are 2 parts released as of the date of recording this tutorial, but more will be uploaded sometime in the near future. So let's get on to making the waffle. Press Shift A, Mesh and Cube to add a cube. Press / to go into the local view so we cannot see the table in here. Press Tab to go into edit mode and S to scale, and let's scale it till here. You can always check the resize and the size from this panel that appears just after resizing. Click on here and you can see I have scaled it to 0.265. I'll just click and drag on all of these and enter 0.2. So if you're following this tutorial exactly by measurements, you can scale it to 0.2. Now I'll press S and Z and scale it in the Z direction. This much looks good. So let's zoom in and press G and Z to move it up. Now let's add some loop cuts in it. So press Tab to go into edit mode, Ctrl R to initiate the loop cut command, scroll up to increase the number of cuts to 2, left click to confirm the cut and right click to reset the location to default. Similarly, let's do it for this side. So Ctrl R, scroll up, left click to confirm, right click to reset location, and let's just add 1 in this direction also. So Ctrl R and just keep it to 1, don't scroll up. If you accidentally scroll up, just scroll down and it will be reset to 1. Left click to confirm and right click to reset location. Next, let's inset these faces. So I'll select all of the faces from the top, and it selected only 1 because we are in the edge selection mode. So click on 3, click on this face select mode, or just press 3 on your keyboard and it will go into the face selection mode. Now click and drag and it should select all of these. But we also need to select the bottom ones. So press Shift and drag while holding Shift and you can select more faces. If any of the face gets left, so you can just keep holding Shift and click on it to select it. Now press I to inset and click I again to create an individual inset. So this much looks good. and you can see it's happened on both sides because we selected the top and bottom faces. Now while the faces are selected, press Alt E and select this extrude faces along normals option. So click on it and drag downwards or upwards depending on your mouse location and move it until you see fit. So I think this much is good, and left click to confirm. And it's happened on both sides, so it's good. Next, let's add a subdivision surface modifier to it. So go into the modifiers panel, click on add modifier, generate and subdivision surface modifier. Now it looks a bit weird, so let's fix that. Press tab to go into edit mode, and to make working in this view easier, let's click on this button and it will turn off the modifier in just the edit mode. So before that, just increase the levels of viewport to 2 and let's click this to hide the modifier while we are in edit mode. So click outside of the model to deselect everything and let's extrude this loop a little outwards. So click and hold Alt and Shift and click on this edge to select this edge loop, and similarly click on this edge while holding Shift and Alt and select this edge loop as well. Make sure you're in the face selection mode and not in the edge or point selection mode, or this selection won't work. Now let's click on Alt E again and select extrude faces along normals. Now move your mouse upwards and extrude it a little bit out and click. Now you'll see that it's not evenly extruded, so you'll get this panel right here just after extruding. Click on it and it will have an offset even option. So just click on that and you will get an even offset. Now it looks a little too much, so I'll just make it 0.02 and click on enter. Now click outside anywhere to hide that panel and confirm our operation. Let's tab to go out of edit mode and see how it looks again. So the sides look good, but the inside or the faces of the waffle does not look good. So press tab to go into edit mode again and let's add some control loops. So press Ctrl R, go near this edge and it will add a loop here. Just click left click to confirm and right click to reset the location to the center. If this menu pops up, you can click here and just hide it or minimize it. And let's add more loop cuts along this and this direction. So Ctrl R, go near the edge, left click, right click. Ctrl R, left click, right click, Ctrl R, left click, right click, Ctrl R, left click, right click, Ctrl R, left click and right click. So now that we have added these loop cuts, our waffle should immediately look better. So click anywhere outside the waffle to deselect everything and let's enable the modifier in edit mode again. And let's press tab to go out of edit mode, and I think it looks good. So now we can right click and shade smooth and our waffle is ready. Now let's duplicate it. So instead of doing a Shift D to duplicate, let's do an Alt D duplicate. So I'll just undo because it was already duplicated. If you just duplicate using any Shift D or Alt D and just right click to reset the location, it just resets it to the original point, but it's already made a duplicate. So make sure you always delete this duplicate and check the collection if you have duplicates or not. So I'll just press X and delete it, and let's just rename this by pressing F2 and let's name it to waffle. Now press Alt D while the waffle is selected and press Z to lock it in the Z direction and move it up. So let's move it along this much, and before you do anything else, let's press Shift and R to make another waffle by repeating the last step. So Shift R repeats the last action. So we don't want 4 actually, so I'm going to undo and let's use these 3. Now click on the second one, press R to rotate and Z to lock it in the Z direction and move it a little towards this side. Let's press the top one and press R to rotate, Z to lock it in the Z direction and rotate about this much. And our waffles are ready. Let's add some berries on top of it. So I'll press Shift A mesh and a UV sphere. Now this is a very high resolution and we'll be scaling it a lot down, so we don't actually want it. So we need to go into this panel and change the settings. Now if you click anywhere else, you'll notice that the menu is gone, but if you haven't done any other action like moving, scaling or anything else, you can bring back the last menu by pressing the F9 key. So it will give you this menu. If you have moved something like this and if you press F9, then it will give you the last option only. So I'm just going to delete the icosphere and just add the UV sphere and add it again. So press Shift A, mesh and UV sphere to add it again. Click on this add UV sphere panel, change the segments to 16 and rings to 8 and radius to let's say 0.025, and I think it's a little too small, so let's see 0.05, and this much looks good. So I'll hide this panel, and while the UV sphere is selected, press G and Z to move it up. Make sure that if you cannot see it, like let's say if you clicked somewhere else, you can always go into the X-ray mode and find the UV sphere, or you can always select it from this collection menu. So I'll just turn off the X-ray mode again and let's zoom in and right click and shade smooth. Now I'll add a level 1 subdivision modifier to it. You can always go into add modifier, generate and subdivision surface, but always remember the shortcut Ctrl 1 to add a 1 level subdivision surface, 2 to add a 2 level surface modifier, and so on. So now you'll notice that the render is always set to 2, but we don't want that. We also want the render to be 1 because we do not want a lot of polygons in this small object. So this much is fine. A level 1 is fine. Now press tab to go into edit mode and I'll select these top faces. So make sure you're in the face selection mode, click and drag and select this loop. Don't select anything else. If you accidentally select anything else, just press double A to deselect everything and click and drag again, and I'll press I to inset it. And if you haven't changed the last inset, it will individually inset the faces, so just press I again so it does a collective inset, and click to confirm and press E to extrude it downwards, and let's press tab to go out of edit mode again. Now our basic berry is ready, so let's press G and Z to move it on this waffle. So I'll just make the move gizmo appear from here. So click on this and the move gizmo will appear on any selected object. So I'll just add it here and let's press F2 to rename it to blueberry, and let's make some duplicates by pressing Alt D. So Alt D, move it wherever you want. If you want to move it on the same plane and do not want to change the height, you can press Alt and Z to lock it in the XY plane so that the Z is not affected. So click on it and press Alt D again, Shift Z to lock, and let's keep 3 of them for now. Now the benefit of doing it with Alt D is that if you go into edit mode and change something, every berry will reflect the change. Instead, if you duplicate it by Shift D and let's say change something, it will not change it. So that is the benefit of doing it similarly to what we did with the waffles. So I think it's a little big, so I'll just scale it down a little and let's move all of them a little down. And now I'll just click on a berry and press RR twice and it will rotate it respective to my cursor. So press double R and rotate them a little, and I think that's good. We'll add more of these berries when we add the plate, but for now let's keep it like this. So let's add the plate now. Press Shift A, mesh and circle to add a circle. Click on this panel that appears for add circle. Let's make the vertices 16 and let's change the radius to 0.5. or maybe 0.7. Let's do 0.6 and click on this to hide it. Now press tab to go into edit mode, and while everything is selected, press E to extrude and S to scale, but nothing is extruding because we are in the face selection mode and there is no face to select. So move into the vertex selection mode, press E to scale and S to scale it inwards. Let's repeat the last action by pressing Shift R, and let's fill this face by using a grid fill. So press F3 while these vertices are selected and search for grid fill. F3 is the search command and grid fill is the command used for filling the grid inside a selection of loop. So click on it and it will fill the vertices. Now let's select this outer vertex, Alt and click on it to select the whole loop. Press E to extrude and let's press Z this time to move it in the upwards direction, and let's press S and scale it a little outwards. I think that is good, and let's add a level 2 subdivision surface modifier by pressing Ctrl 2 while the plate is selected. Press right click and shade smooth, and now let's check the face orientation for a minute. So click on this overlay menus drop down and click on face orientation. So you'll notice that you might have a red face or a non-colored face. In Blender 4.4 it's a non-colored face. In earlier versions it was a blue color. So red means your normals are facing in the wrong direction, and normal faces or blue faces in older versions mean they are facing in the right direction towards the camera. So to fix this we can either invert the normals, but for this specific case we actually need a thickness to the plate. So let's add modifier, generate, and a solidify modifier. So it's fixed, but if in your case it's not fixed, it's probably because the offset is in the opposite direction. So now to change the thickness you can just increase or decrease the thickness from here. Make sure it does not go too much or it will do something like this, and if you do it in the opposite direction it will go something like this. So I'll just undo and keep it to 0.01 at default. Now let's add a loop cut to give a little structure to it. So press tab to go into edit mode, and now to work a little better I'll just turn off this modifier from edit mode, and let's turn off this as well. So press Ctrl R near this edge and it will create a loop cut, and click and drag it outwards near the edge or the outer edge. That will improve this edge. So press tab to go out of edit mode and you will see that this is looking better. I'll just go undo and let's see this older one. This was the older one. It's a lot curved like this, but let's add it again. Hide the modifier, hide this modifier, Ctrl R, click and drag it outwards near the outer edge, and click to confirm, tab to go out of edit mode, and now you will see that this loop is more defined. So press tab to go into edit mode again, and let's do the same for this one. So Ctrl R and move it outwards and click to confirm, and let's turn on the modifiers. You can always keep them off. It's just for the edit mode. It always shows in the renders as long as this is on. So press tab to go out of object mode and it looks a little better now. Now what you can do is you can move this solidify up and you will see that it changes a little. Now the plate is being solidified first and then a subdivision surface modifier is being applied. So let's increase the thickness to, let's say, 0.02, and I think this much is better. Now let's move the waffles down. Select everything including the berries and the waffles and press 1 to go into the front view, and let's turn on X-ray mode and move everything down near the plate. So you can see here is the plate. So press either G and Z to move it downwards or just use this gizmo. And let's zoom out and I think it looks better. Turn off the X-ray mode by pressing Alt Z and we are done with the waffles and the plate. Let's add some more berries and one more waffle down here. So I'll just click and drag to select everything, and to deselect the plate I'll press Ctrl and drag so that the plate is deselected. Now I'll just move it a little outwards or towards the left, and let's duplicate this waffle and these 3 berries. So click on this waffle, shift click on these 3, press Alt D to duplicate, X to move it in the X direction, RZ to rotate in the Z direction, and G and Z to move it downwards. Press 1 to go into the front view and see the location, Alt Z to go into the X-ray mode and see the placement with respect to the plate, and Alt Z to go out of the X-ray mode again, and let's rotate it a little and change the location of these berries. So G shift Z, G shift Z to move it, and let's press G Z and move it here, Alt D to duplicate and Alt D to duplicate, Shift Z to lock the location in the XY plane, and RR to rotate, RR to rotate, RR to rotate. Similarly for these two as well. And I think our waffle and plate is ready. Next, let's make the smoothie. So let's press / because we are in still the local view. So now let's get back to the object view or the overall view again. So let's press Shift A, mesh and circle to add a circle. Now it will remember the last setting, so it's made a circle which is equal to this plate. It might not be visible right here, but it's made a new circle right here. So while the circle is selected, press / to go into the local view. If it's not selected and you cannot see it, you can just click to select it, or you can find it in the outliner here and click on this circle.001. So we did not name our plate, so click on this first circle, press F2 and let's rename it to plate. Now the circle will be easier to find. So click on / and move it in the local view. Press tab to go into edit mode, S to scale while everything is selected, and scale it down to, let's say, half. You can always check the resize from here. So let's select everything and press 0.5 to make it half the size of the plate. Now let's press E to extrude, S to scale, and let's extrude it to this much and press F this time to fill the face. Now you'll notice still again that we have not turned off the face orientation, so we are still in the wrong face orientation. But this time we are going to make a surface, so this will stay inside, so it won't matter as long as the camera is directly seeing the red faces. So click Alt and hold it and click on this edge or vertex to select this whole edge loop. Press E to extrude and Z to lock it in the Z direction. Let's make it, let's say, this much big. So you can always check the left view to see the overall view through the camera, which can give you a reference for the sizes. Now let's press E again and S to scale inwards, and press G and Z to move it a little upwards, and let's press E and Z again and click once, and let's press E and Z again and let's click once. Now this is our basic shape made for the jar. So let's add a solidify modifier. So now that fixes our issue for the red faces or the wrong faces. Next, let's minimize this modifier and add a subdivision surface modifier. Now the shape looks a little weird, so we need to add control loops. I'll press 1 to go into the front view, press tab to go into the edit mode, and let's add a control loop here. So click outside to deselect everything, Ctrl R to add a loop cut near this edge, and let's click left click to confirm, right click to deselect or reset location in the center. So now while the loop is selected, let's press Ctrl B and bevel it by moving the mouse outwards. So I think this much is good. Click outside to deselect everything, tab to go out of edit mode, right click and shade smooth. And now I think this looks good. Let's add a loop cut here as well to define the shape a little better. So tab to go into edit mode, Ctrl R and click here to add a loop cut and right click to confirm the location. Let's add one here, Ctrl R, click to confirm and let's move it a little up by dragging our mouse and left click to confirm. Now let's make a cap for the same. So to make the cap of the jar, let's use this selection of faces or this face loop. So I'll press 3 to go into the face selection mode or click this button to go into the face selection mode. Click and hold Alt and Shift and click on this edge to select the whole loop and click on this edge to select the whole loop again and press Shift D to duplicate. Now if you press Alt D, it will not work because Alt D does not work in the edit mode. So right click to reset its location, and while the loop is selected, press S and scale it outwards. Now let's say you clicked off somewhere and you did not scale it right after duplicating. You will have some issues selecting the faces again because it is now connected to the original geometry and at the same place of it. So I'll just press undo till I get the 0 selection phase. And let's select the faces again by holding Alt, Shift and clicking on this edge and clicking on this edge. Press Shift D to duplicate, move your mouse to see the duplicate, right click to reset its location and S to scale it outwards. If your geometry moves with the selection like this, you might have turned on this proportional editing by accident, so just turn it off. And while the faces are still selected, press S to scale it outwards. Now while it is selected again, let's press P and let's select selection to separate this selected faces. Now let's press tab to go out of the edit mode, and now you will see that this is a different object and this is a different object. So select the cap one and press tab to go into edit mode, and let's select this loop. So press Alt and click on this, but it's not being selected because we are in this face selection mode. So select the edge selection mode, Alt and click on this edge, and now it will be selected. Let's move it a little bit up and let's fill it. So press E to extrude and S to scale inwards, E to extrude, S to scale it inwards, and let's press F3 and grid fill to fill the top. If this pattern is different from yours, you can always click on this panel and increase or decrease the span, and click on this offset to rotate the selection to your liking. By default, it's almost always good unless you have tweaked the settings for an older grid fill, so it will use the settings for the older one. But unless you have kept it on default for everything, it will be probably good for all these settings. But for this one, as you can see, I have used 4 and 2, or let's just keep it to 0. So 4 and 0, that was the default. So click outside to confirm the operation, and let's press tab to go out of the edit mode again. Let's add a loop cut here to define this edge better. So tab to go into edit mode, Ctrl R to add a loop cut, and click and move it down near the edge and click to confirm. Tab to go out of edit mode, and I think our jar is ready. Let's press 1 to go into the front. So I think the cap is a little too small for it. So press tab to go into edit mode, S and Z to scale it a little upwards. And I think that is good. Now let's make the smoothie for this jar. So click on this jar to select it, and let's press / to go out of the local view, and you'll notice that the jar is a little too big. So I'll select this and the cap together and press S to scale it a little, and let's keep it this size, and let's move it right here. We'll adjust the table later, so we'll fix the base later. Now let's make the smoothie for this jar. So I'll click on this jar only and click on / to go into the local view. Now press tab to go into edit mode, and let's turn off these modifiers in the edit mode for a moment. Now press 1 to go into the front view, press Alt Z to go into the local view, and click and drag and select these faces. If you're in the edge selection mode, make sure to go into the face selection mode to make the selection a little easier. And let's press Shift D to duplicate them and move your mouse to see the duplicate, and let's press right click to reset the location. Now let's press P and press selection to make the selection different from the object. Now press tab to go out of edit mode, and now we have two objects, one for the bottle and one for the smoothie. So press 1 to go into the front view again, press tab to go into the edit mode while this is selected, and now let's keep the X-ray mode on to see things a little better, and click and hold Alt and click on this edge to select the edge loop. Make sure you are in the edge selection mode, so hold Alt and click this, and let's press E to extrude, S to scale, and E to extrude, S to scale again, and press F to fill it, and let's move it a little downwards. Let's press Ctrl plus to increase the selection by 1, and let's move it a little more downwards. Now if you see it in the object view again, you'll notice that the sides are a little weird, so let's tab into edit mode again and add a control loop here. So press Ctrl R, click and drag up near the edge, and let's click and confirm it and press tab to go out of edit mode again, and you will see that it looks better. Now you will see some kind of this artifacting going on, so this is because both the surfaces are overlapping, so we don't want that actually. So let's press 1 to go into the front view, and let's first move it a little upwards, and let's scale it down a little. So press tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything, and S to scale downwards or inwards. Click to confirm, and at this point you can change the thickness of this jar as well. So let's do that. I'm going to increase the thickness of this jar. Let's say something like this, and let's click on this shake or the material inside and move it down so that the inner shape is inside the thickness of these walls. So these are the walls for the jar. We want this shape to be inside this wall thickness. So now you'll notice that we still have the solidify modifier on it, but we don't actually want it because it's a simple shape and not a glass similar to this jar. So let's remove the solidify modifier from the inner shape, and let's go out of the X-ray mode again. And if you don't see the red faces, it is correct, but if you see the red faces, you can just press tab to go into edit mode and click on Shift N. That will recalculate your normals. So let's say you see red faces like this on this jar, you can press tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything, and press Shift N, and it should recalculate the normals outside. If it does not, you can click this to try a different approach depending on your face orientation. If you have been following the tutorial, it should be good and it should not show any red faces. So I'll just hide it and tab to go out of edit mode, and I think our smoothie is ready as well. So let's press tab to go out of local view, and let's duplicate these three things, but let's rename them first. So press this, press F2, and let's select cap. Let's select this F2 and let's rename it to jar, and let's keep on pressing to select the inner shape, or if you're not able to select it, you can always go into the outliner and find the shape, or you can go into the X-ray mode by pressing Alt Z, and now it should be clickable. So first click selects the outer shape. If you click again, it will select the inner shape. So let's press F2 and let's rename it to smoothie, and now let's click and drag and select all of these and press Shift D to duplicate and press X to lock it in the X direction and move it in the X direction. Click to confirm, and now let's go out of X-ray mode by pressing Alt Z. Click on this cap and let's delete it by pressing X and delete. Let's add a straw to this jar. So press Shift A, mesh and a circle. Press / to go into the local view, tab to go into edit mode, S to scale and E to extrude upwards. Press Z to lock it in the Z direction, and let's keep it this much. And it's a little thick as we can see from here, so press A to select everything, S to scale and click on Shift Z to lock or exclude the Z direction from the scaling. So let's extrude it, scale it this much, and let's scale it down as well in the height. So this much is good. Scale as much as you think it is needed, and let's move it down near the origin as well. Press tab to go out of edit mode again. Now you'll see that we still have the red faces for this as well, so you can add a solidify modifier always to fix it. Adjust the thickness if needed and press right click and shade smooth to make it look better. You can always right click and shade auto smooth for shapes like cylinder, which have long thin surfaces, which should be smoothed better with the auto smooth option. So let's press / to go out of local mode again. So let's move this straw to something like this. It's a little short, so press tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything, S and Z to scale it up. Toggle X-ray with Alt Z to see the scale. So little too much. Let's scale it this much, and let's press R to rotate it. Now you will see that the origin is at the bottom, so we cannot rotate it a lot better. So you can always right click an object, set origin to geometry. So now it will move the origin to the center of the geometry. Now let's press R and X to rotate it on the X axis, and let's move it near to the edge where it is resting. You can press 1 to see the depth and the placement better. Press 1 and 3 accordingly to see it from the front and side view. This much looks good, and press Alt Z to go out of the local view, and I think this is good. Let's make another straw for this jar, but place it on the bottom here. So press Shift or Alt D to duplicate, Y to move it in the Y direction. And now we need to reset the rotation on this. So press Alt and R. That should clear all rotations on this object. So now let's press R, Y and 90 to rotate it 90 degree on the Y axis. Let's move it down on the table. Let's place it somewhere here, and let's press R and Z to rotate it in the Z direction, and let's rotate it by, let's say, 90. Type 90 on the keyboard and it will be rotated 90 degree, and let's move it here maybe. And let's move this jar as well. So select, click and drag to select everything, and let's move it. So now let's adjust our table, which was the default cube. So click and select it, press tab to go into the edit mode, S and Shift Z to lock or exclude the Z direction, and let's scale it up. Think this much is good. And now let's adjust our camera. So if you have hidden the camera, you can unhide it from here. Click here to select the camera, and let's press G and ZZ to zoom in by dragging our mouse, and I think this much is good. And now what you can do is, while the camera is selected, you will see it is highlighted by yellow. You can press G and move the camera around from this view. So I think this looks good. And now we need to adjust the table. So click and select the table and let's move it, or let's just rotate the table. Press R, Z and let's say 45 degrees. Tab to go into edit, A to select everything, S to scale, and Shift Z to exclude Z direction and scale it upwards till it fills the camera. Or let's scale it up to this much and let's move it on the Y and X axis. Till it fills the camera. So let's just scale again and move again. And scale again and move again. And depending on your camera level or the camera rotation, it's going to be different for you on how much you have to scale this. Now I think this looks good. So now let's get into the materials. So to edit the materials, I'll just click and drag from the bottom and make a new window here and go into the shader editor from here. Now in this view you can just keep it zoomed in like this, and for this view you can make it rendered by going into the rendered view mode. From here you can just scroll on this bar and it will show all the different options, and click on this view to go into the rendered view. Now for the render settings, I'm in the cycles workspace and I've put my device to GPU compute. If you have a GPU, keep it to GPU. If you have a powerful CPU instead, keep it to CPU. Let's keep the noise threshold to 0.5 for the viewport and max samples to 32. For the render, we'll just keep the noise to 0.5 and max samples to 128. And let's go into the film and make it transparent so that the background is actually transparent. And in the color management, we are in the sRGB display device. View transform is AGX, and the look, let's make it medium high contrast. So let's move on to the materials now. We had a default light in the scene. You can turn it on. It's usually very harsh, but in this case I think it works well. So let's just keep it on and let's just not move its location as well, or let's just add a new light so you can follow along. So before adding any lights to the scene, let's add an HDRI for a decent lighting setup without any lights. So go into the world properties from here, click on this yellow dot and click on environment texture, and the scene will go pink. That will show you that something is missing. So let's click on this open and click on any HDRs that you have downloaded. So the link for this one will be in the description as always. So click on this. I will use this Photoshop HDR. Click on open image and it will add a decent lighting to the scene. Now you can always adjust the strength from here if you want to. So I'll just make it 0.7 or let's say 0.5 and adjust the lighting with some lights. So let's press Shift A, light, and add a point light. Let's move it up and let's move it to the side. It is towards the camera, so from camera it is to the left of the camera and near to the camera than the objects. So let's keep it around here and let's go into the light data properties and make it brighter. Let's say 100 is good. Let's duplicate this and move it to the right side and press Shift Z to exclude the Z direction movement and move it around here, and let's reduce the power to something like 25. And let's start coloring our objects now. So select the waffles and click on plus to add a new material. To hide this tool from here, let's press N and it will be hidden. Let's drag it a little up and let's see the material from here. So I'll just click on this color and select the color of the waffles to something like this. And if you have some references, you can always use them. So if you have a reference, just pick the color from the reference. So if you want to copy mine, this is the hex code. You can just click and enter this hex code from here. And let's increase the roughness to, let's say, 0.9. And that is our basic waffle material. Let's click on this blueberry, click on new, and let's change the color to something blue, obviously, and reduce the brightness, something like this. Let's select our mason jar, click on plus new, and let's click on this transmission and let's make it 1. So now this is a glass material. And to make it look better, reduce the roughness and it will look better. Or a second alternative you can do is, you can press Shift A here and search for a glass BSDF and connect this shader to the material output surface. So this gives almost the same results, but this gives you more control over the material. So let's make the IOR 1.3 maybe. And yeah, I think that is good. So now we want the same material for this jar as well. So in this view, I'll just select this jar first and then select this jar and press Ctrl L and click on link materials. So now both of these will have the same material. Let's rename the material to glass. Let's click and rename this material to waffle. Let's rename this one to blueberry. And you'll notice that we did not have to link these materials for the berries like this glass because we duplicated them using the Alt D command. So they will inherit the material from their linked duplicates. So if you change the color on one, the others will be changed as well. So now let's click on this cap, click on new, and let's make it. And depending on your lighting setup, these codes might not work the same for you. So just experiment with them and see what works better. Let's increase the roughness to 0.9 on this as well. And let's change the color of this smoothie. So click on this and let's click on new and let's change it to something like a red purple type thing. Change the roughness to less if you want to make it shiny and high if you want to make it less shiny. So let's add the color to this one as well. So it is not selected. So to select this one, click on this first and it will select the jar. Click on it again and it should select the inner material, inner object. Or you can always go into the outliner and select our smoothie since we renamed them. So it's easier. So let's select this drop down and click on this material 2 that we just created. You can always rename the materials. Let's add it smoothie and let's name this one cap. The cap, I'm not liking the color of it, so let's change it to somewhat of a neutral color. I think this is good. And let's add the colors to the straws. So click on plus. And let's add a wave texture. Click on Shift A, search for wave and click on wave texture and connect the color to the base color. Now you'll see nothing much has happened because it's in the X direction. So let's change it to Y and see what happens. Still not changed. So let's make it Z and you will see that we have some wave texture going on. Now to make it a little better or sharper, let's move the node here and click search, and let's add a color ramp and drop it in between these two nodes. When the line turns white, that means it will auto connect, so click and drop it here. If you accidentally drop it outside, do not worry, just connect the color to the factor and color to the base color and it will auto connect. Now move these sliders so the wave texture becomes a lot more detailed, or let's say crisp. And now we can change the color from here. So click on this black one and let's change it to a red like this, and let's keep the white as white, just a little bit of color like this, or just let's say just keep it close to white, almost close to white. And since we duplicated it using Alt D, so this straw already has the same color. Now select this plate at last, click on new, and let's keep the base color same. Just click on it and increase it to make it fully white. Increase the value to make it fully white, and let's reduce the roughness so it's a little shinier. And now let's add a material to the table or the background. So click on the table, click new, let's rename it to background, and let's change it to something this maybe, and increase the roughness to let's say 0.9. And I think that is our scene basically done, and you can see the final render on screen right now. As you saw in the beginning of the tutorial, I might have tweaked the lights and the colors a little, but basically the process is same as you watched till here. So that was it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe for future tutorials. Make sure to comment any issues or problems that you face, and I'll try to cover them in future tutorials or reply to you in the comments. You can always join the Make Stuff channel on Instagram. So that's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.